Also,
You know what it is?
go ahead.
I'm only good. I was painfully reminded this week of a story that I won't repeat. I was painfully reminded this week that I'm only good at like 3 or 4 things in this entire world. Like legitimately, I am only good at those 3 or 4 things. Everything else, I'm like the worst at. So the fact that I cannot give you recording privileges, number one, doesn't surprise me. Number two, by the way, I'm not going to get any better at it. So newsflash.
Listen, bro, 33 weeks in, I've made peace with it. All right. Don't worry about it.
How are you, my friend?
Dude, if I was any better, I'd be Tom Brady.
I had a client this week that was on a text chain with Tom Brady.
Was it me?
No.
Oh.
It was a client in New York City, and she told me, she goes, "You'll never guess who I was on a text chain with this week." I go, "Who?" I go, "Tom Brady." I go, "Why? Is he gonna invest in your brand?" She's like, "Maybe. It may happen."
I text Tommy all the time.
Do you? Your boys?
Yeah. Yo, on that note, not on that note at all, it has nothing to do with it. Soundtrack today, just a little blessing for everybody watching on live. The band Train, like Drops of Jupiter Train, covered the entire album Led Zeppelin 2, and it fucking rocks.
What are you listening to that on?
I don't want to say the name because then it's going to stop and listen to me, but one of those.
One of the digital devices that you talk to?
Rhymes with Schmo Alexa. No free ads on the AV conversation. Hit us up, Bezos.
So let me ask you a question. So you have those recurring charges on your credit card every single month. What do you actually pay for? Like you personally, what do you pay? What streaming services do you pay for?
Do I pay for?
Yep.
Dude, it's funny. Our friend Kim at Infinite just wrote a LinkedIn article about this last week, and it made me go through my stuff, and it was depressing. There's a lot of stuff that I pay for that I don't use, man. Like a lot.
Like what is it? Give me the list.
Well, it's been brought to my attention that even just me paying for Spectrum is too much. I don't watch TV ever, but I have that. There's Amazon Music. There's Netflix. There's ESPN Plus. There's Spotify. I haven't used my Spotify in probably 3 years. I'm just all over the place. So much wasted stuff that I just nothing.
And why do you do it?
Because I value time over money, and the 4 minutes it would take me to go cancel it is just not worth the $4.
Isn't that amazing? It's all about attention, isn't it? It's all about attention, isn't it?
And just fucking time. I've made so much peace with that. I'd rather 4 minutes is worth more than $4 to me a month.
Yeah. I had a conversation this week with a music agency, a management agency that manages about 10 or 12 different artists. Been having some really fun conversation. I cannot wait to talk about these things when I get the green light. And they were nervous about potentially launching a beverage. And they were like, I was breaking down all the numbers and I said, this is what it's going to cost you to launch and et cetera, et cetera. And the guy gets on the phone, the CPA gets on the phone and he goes, "Ben, I'm really concerned that this is going to cost this much money." And his name's Tony. I said, "Tony," I said, "you need to look at not only what you guys are going to do on a transactional basis with this first drop." I said, "but think about all the revenue you guys have lost over the last 12 months from touring." I mean, these guys will do, I've been shocked. These guys will do 8 figures in touring a year. That filters down to their entire organization. So a lot of these guys are starting beverage companies to try to make up for that revenue. And I said to him, I go, "Tony," I said, "you actually have very little risk here." I said, "You've really mitigated your own risk." And he was kind of gave me this perplexed look. And I said, "You've already done the hard work by getting the attention." I go, "Attention is the only thing that matters. You have 13 million fans or whatever." I said, "How many digital downloads did you do last month?" And he told me. I go, "Can you imagine if you sold 1/4 of that many 4-packs or 6-packs of an energy drink or a canned coffee or a bottle of water, I go, you're only betting on yourself because you already have that attention. So you just and then that's what I was going to ask you coming in, but you already said something. So we're already on the same wavelength. But it's just amazing to me that people think they get in their own head and they think about everything else that doesn't matter. The thing that only matters if you want to grow your business, grow your personal brand, grow whatever it is that we talk about for 33 straight weeks is attention. That's it. End of story. If you have that, you win.
I mean, when you break it down at its most basic level, that's what people pay us to get. You know, like it's everything. It's how you can't do anything till you have it. You can't sell food. You can't sell them coffee. You can't sell them whiskey. You can't sell them marketing services. You can't, none of the above until you have that, which is why, it's been just a huge topic this week where we've gone through like that Venn diagram that we give people. Like, you have to have great content. You got to be consistent, but you have to have attention. If you have great content and you post every day, but you're not doing anything to get in front of the right people, you may as well not be posting anything. And it's just one of those things that nobody, for whatever reason, that's always the toughest thing to grasp. Is that?
Why do you think that is?
Because I think that it's so less tangible and less black and white than everything else. You know, you can see if you're posting every day. You can see if a photo is really good and well lit and all that. Seeing if you have attention or not is a little bit like the white whale in the conversation. How do you know if you have it? You know what I mean? And I just think that anytime people are confronted with uncertainty, it's easier to just ignore it. Right? Because if you can't tell that it's working, why am I going to keep doing it? Having that amount of faith and that amount of confidence in something that in a lot of cases is foreign to you, it's just tough, man. You know, like we see it all the time. And heaven forbid, even if you start trying to do some targeted advertising, how do you know you did it right? How do you know you picked the right audience? How do you tell if it's the right audience? Nobody bought anything. It's been up for 2 days. Did I do it wrong?
Yeah.
And rather than trying to digest and figure out and solve those problems and answer those questions, it's easier to just be like, meh, and then just keep doing what you're doing and be like, no, Facebook doesn't work anymore. Instagram doesn't work anymore. You know, LinkedIn doesn't do anything. It's easier to say that and then commiserate with other people around you that have thrown in the towel in a similar way, rather than actively trying to figure it out. It's just willingness, to be honest with you. You know, it's once you get into it and you look at it and you actually have the discipline to look at it in the big picture, there's nothing complicated about it.
But people don't want to look at the big picture.
No.
They want to look at, if I spend time doing this now, I want to see what I get from it today. People don't even wait till tomorrow. Remember the good old days where you would do something today and you'd have a transactional thing happen tomorrow? People can't even wait that long. They're like, click submit. I want 1 million comments. I want 500 followers. I want $1,000 in transactional business for something that cost me $250 yesterday. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will not allow themselves to wait 24 hours to see if something that they're doing returns immediate investment. Yes, Dan, I need a new hat. Would you give me this thing is filthy. It's my favorite hat. Would you please get me a new hat? Everybody go check out my boy in Skinny Atlas, Dan Tagliamante. Seaway branding in Skinny Atlas. Well done, my man. That's the thing. That's why brand is so hard. Why did I go ahead?
It's why all of the bullshit snake oil marketing people can make money up front, but why guys like us are still here.
Right.
Everybody and I understand it. I empathize with it. Everybody would rather pay, you know, $1,500 up front for this course that's guaranteed to yield 10x result in 30 days rather than actually have somebody sit down and plan out 12 months with them.
Yep.
What are you going to do as a business owner? Write a check that's guaranteed to work, or listen to the kid that says, hey, you're going to have to pay me all this money over this much time, and it's still going to be really hard. You know, it's not hard to see why they make one decision over the other. The only problem is one of those doesn't work. It never has, and it never will.
Yep.
And ironically, most people know that, but it's still easier than sitting down and spending 2 months writing a plan and then executing that plan and then watching it. And then, hey, these 6 things work. These 3 things didn't. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that's on a good day. That's when nothing else is breaking. That's when there's no personal stressors out there. That's when everybody's healthy. That's when there's no pandemic, all of that. That's hard in a normal scenario. Today, you know, like it's just, but it's, here we are, you know, like here we are.
So on that point, we're 8 months, 9 months, depending on who you ask. I'm not getting political, to this thing. Do you think brands and people that you follow are getting better at this, or are they getting worse at it? Is the divide getting bigger, or is the whole kind of closing? What do you think?
As far as people like buying into like what marketing and branding looks like, and like
the right way, yeah.
I think it's staying the same, man. Like if you're either open to new stuff or you're not, you know, and it's not even being romantic about, you know, Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, because, you know, 10 years ago it was digital stuff, and then, you know, 30 years ago it was TV, and then 50 years ago it was radio. But people don't like change. They don't like having to learn new things. So it's the same process, just on different mediums over and over and over and over again. Are there more people that are buying into it? Sure, but they're already so much more significantly late to the game than the people that did it in April, that it's yielding so less results. Like, I think the perfect example of that is, like, think back to April, where like one company ran one commercial where they, hey, we're all in this together, da 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 da. Here's what we're doing to keep you safe. One person had the thought to go outside of the box and do that, and then literally everybody and their fucking cousin ran the exact same spot. How many email newsletters did you get from brands that you haven't heard from in years saying, hey, here's how insert business here is dealing with COVID-19? The same fucking way as everybody else, dude. That's how you're dealing with it. Our employees are washing our hands. We have sanitizing stations. Okay.
6 foot distance.
But nobody wants to be the first person to do that. Everybody would rather be the 41st person to do it and have nobody pay attention than, heaven forbid, you try something else and it's hard or you get it wrong.
Yep.
Which is ironic, because if they were smart, they'd realize that that's actually how you.
Sometimes you got to zig when other people zag, my man. And people don't zig because it's hard, it's unnatural, and people are scared to be made fun of that they're doing something different, or they'll be criticized for it. You know, and that's been a common theme throughout this show for now 33 weeks. Is that's one of the biggest resistors that people have, is they don't want it. They don't want to do that. You know, one of the I'll give my boy a shout out right now. Josh Grossfent from K-Rock. There it is. There's the weekday whiskey. He's been working on this. I got a couple bottles for you, by the way. I got you, boy.
I've had a lot of whiskey in my life lately, and I'm not mad about it.
You do have a lot of whiskey in your life. The reason I point him out is because he's been talking about doing this for a year. He sent me a text after a couple of cocktails one night, about 10:30 on a Friday, and he goes, "I got to pick your brain." I go, "What's up?" He goes, "How hard would it be to start a whiskey brand?" I go, "It's going to be one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life." And he goes, "Okay." He said, "I'm down." And I helped him along. He did most of the work. I helped him along a little bit, gave him a little advice. But even so, we launched it last Saturday at Lock One up in Phoenix. They helped him out, and they got great guys up there. And he launched his brand. He did the hats. He did the buttons. He's going to do hoodies at some point. But my point is, he was nervous up until 3 weeks ago. I text him. I'm like, "How you feeling? You know, the big time." He goes,
Thank you.
he goes, "I'm scared shitless." He goes, "What if nobody shows up?" I go, "Josh, it's the same line that I just said 5 minutes ago." I go, "Josh, you have a fervent group that follows you. They are so brand loyal to K-Rock and to Josh." The line was 45 minutes long. They had to bring in the village police to manage the traffic last Saturday because he took a shot. He saved up a lot of, I won't even say the number. He saved up a lot of money for 12 months to pay to launch a whiskey brand. And he did it, and it flew out the door to his highest expectations. And what I told him was, what if it falls flat? So what? You freaking tried it. So then you get to go back 5 years from now when you're sitting with your boys having a whiskey and you go, "Hey, remember that dumbass idea 5 years ago when I tried to start a whiskey brand?" And then you laugh it off and you pissed away a couple of grand. Okay. Right. At least you freaking tried. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. At least you freaking tried.
And like, the older I get, the more I realize that maybe I'm just weird, but like, what good thing do you have that you're happy that you have that you didn't feel that way about? Think about it. Like the first time like you asked Siobhan out, you're probably scared shitless. You ask her to marry you, you're scared shitless. Oh, you're having a kid that you have to keep alive, you're scared shitless. I'm buying a house that I have to pay for 30 years. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to go into business for myself with no guarantee I make any money. But like, think about it. If I asked you to list the 10 best things about your life right now, that's probably the top 6. Like, if you're not scared, you're fucking up, dude. Like, everybody else that just like, and it's easy to say now because you're 6 years in and stuff is stabilized and you know, like, okay, I can afford payroll, I can afford rent, I can afford all this. But like, I'm scared of the opposite. I'm scared of not doing it. I'm scared of working a job that you hate, that literally fucking kills you from the inside out for 40 hours a week, which, oh, by the way, is a third of your life. Huh?
Do you realize, I love this, it's my favorite word. It's my favorite word. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says this. Do you know how much audacity it takes for me to stand in this room and charge people to talk on the phone or look into a stupid computer all day long? And I send them invoice. Every month I send them an invoice to talk to people. Mm-hmm. What kind of world do we live in that you can make a living doing that? What kind of world do you live in where my buddy Dan, who's, I think he's still, thank you, Dan, you're still, oh, he's going to get me a new hat. Hey, check me out. Big time influencer right here. That Dan can open up a retail shop in Skinny Atlas and sell hoodies and t-shirts and finely crafted hats and vests and candles and soap. Like, he makes a living doing that in one of the most gorgeous places on the planet. And that is how he is living his life. Like, he had to have the audacity to hang his shingle to create a brand, which is an incredible brand. That's why I jam with it. And that's what he does for a living. Instead of driving to a building in the middle of Syracuse, sitting in a cubicle, picking up a phone and selling whatever it is that whatever he sells, and you said it perfectly, getting eaten from inside. and slowly dying every single time.
Yeah, so it's just wild to me. And everybody thinks it's crazy till like it happens. But like the crazy part is that your story is becoming less crazy by the day. Like there's kids that get paid to do the same 6 dances on TikTok every day. And they're worth more right now than you and me will ever make in our lives.
Correct.
Well, maybe. But like that's just the world we live in. And it's just people just don't pay attention. It's wild to me. Like we see it every day. There's still people that tell me that their customers aren't on social media. Like, okay, sure. And you can't fight it. There's nothing to talk about there. But like, and what people don't understand is like they're starting to realize it out there.
But are they? No, but are they? Are they
customers?
Seriously?
Your customers are, especially ones that are under the age of 30. Never in a million years would my dad pay an extra $12 to have something delivered from his favorite restaurant rather than driving the 6 minutes it takes to get there. These people are doing it. You know, never in a million years would, you know, somebody, you know, like grocery delivery 10 years ago. Bananas. Think about it. When I was growing up, what's the first thing your parents teach you? Don't get in a car with strangers.
Yep.
Now we literally pay strangers to come pick us up in their car. At scale. And like shit is just changing. And like people like think like the amount of people that still think within their own 4 walls, and they think that like they decide how their customers are going to act and they decide what they want. And that when we push things out like that and it doesn't resonate, something in the middle is broken. It's not because we are not thinking about how are customers in 2021 behaving and how do we make ourselves a part of that. And the people that are doing that are having success right now. One of our biggest, most successful clients that we have right now is a small gift shop that is just loaded with just tchotchkes to no end. And they're crushing. They've been in business longer than they've been alive. But they've been that way because they don't do business like they did 32 years ago. They're doing it like it's 2021. And that's why they're winning. So like, you know, it's so basic when you break it down, but nobody wants to, especially in smallish towns like you and I live in, everybody assumes like, oh, that's just bigger city stuff. That's in New York, sure, but never in Binghamton, never in Casanova. We're just a small town in upstate New York. The world gets smaller and smaller every day. You know, like it's
but
just
people. But the two things are people are too romantic. People are too nostalgic about how they've done business in the past. Number one, and number two, they don't want to haul themselves out from underneath the carpet and sit and make a list. Everybody, you know what everybody's afraid of? Everybody's afraid of this. And why are they afraid of this? Because this takes creativity, this takes self-awareness, and this takes thought. This takes thought. A blank piece of paper. I start every day. The first thing I do when I come to my desk, I clear off yesterday's notes. So I haven't been in my office, but here's yesterday's notes from everything. I take those, I transcribe those into a Trello board, since you taught me about Trello. Here's my to-do. I have my other screen sitting right here. I have you'll be so proud of me, my other TV, my 32-inch TV that's sitting right here is just my Trello board now. That's all it is. That is my to-do list. So anytime I have a free moment, boom, it's right there. Off topic. My point was they don't want to be self-aware of what they need to do to grow their business or how their customers are changing their habits. So you just said it. It's too big time. It's too New York City. It's too San Francisco. It's too whatever. Guess what? Next time you're walking the dog, listen to Gary Vee's podcast or listen to somebody else's podcast that you respect. Find out what they're doing and what platforms they're investing in, invest in those same platforms. And then when it gets here to Binghamton and Cazenovia and Skaneateles, you'll be skating to where the puck is. You big hockey guy. We love our Canadian guys. You'll be skating to where the puck is going rather than where it already is.
And that's the crazy part for me is that, like, we just did this, you know, like selling stuff on Facebook was too big city 15 years ago. Having a website was too big city 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like advertising on the TV, you know, in like the 70s was only for like the rich businesses in town. Like it's just the same thing over and over and over again. It's just whatever the platform is changes. You know what I mean? Like right now, like I'm like making mental, everyone's just like, oh, you should start learning TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, you fucking should. Yeah. Like a year from now, we're going to have to figure that out. So yes, you should 100% be figuring it out, you know? And it's just like, nah, that's crazy talk, you know? But like, okay.
I got my TikTok lesson on Sunday. You're gonna appreciate this. My son, he's allowed to sleep over at like 2 or 3 different friends' house because we're keeping our group small. We're trying to do our part, right? So he's been hanging out with basically the same friends since like June. And I was picking him up from Manlius. I was taking the boys to Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast, and his friend Max was in the car in the back, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Riley, I got to show you something." I said, "Okay." Pulls out his phone. He goes, "We made a brand new TikTok account last night at a sleepover." I go, "All right." He goes, "We made one video." I go, "Okay, let me see the video." It was them. They took an office chair. And my wife's going to hate this story, but it's true. They took an office chair out. He lives on a pretty big hill in Manlius. They took turns sitting in the office chair and pushing each other down the hill, you know, like just like crazy Jackass 2.0 style.
Yep.
I go, it was pretty, it was amusing, whatever, you know, and they had different music that they were playing. Of course, all the up-to-date artists. I go, okay. I said, that's cool. And what's the punchline? He showed me the metrics. Take one guess. Of course, it was like 2 a.m. that they did it. I picked them up at so in 8.5 hours, guess how many views this one video had? Just take a guess.
Bet you it ends in illion.
Sure is. 1.1 million views in 8.5 hours. And I sat there and I had you in my mind. And I had, you know, another buddy, Mike, in my mind, being like, it's not the what's next, it's the what's now. It is literally what is happening right now. So if you're not producing on that platform, which I'm not, and this is partially to call myself out, that's why I'm telling the story on record, but I was just shocked. But I was thinking about you and I'm like, man, I want to be that 43-year-old dad doing Heelys to little baby down in Cazenovia. That's my shtick, man.
Like it's just here, and that's the wild part to me is that there's nothing to debate, right? Like the numbers are there, you know. For the longest time, it's been like coming from the marketing and advertising guy, right? Where you had rough analytics that like your sales manager would give you. All of it's made up. Nobody knows anything. Like radio and their Nielsen ratings, we got into it on a previous episode. I'm not going there. It's just going to raise my blood pressure. But like even like TV ratings, like, yeah, you can see like how many homes it's on, but like how many people, like were they paying attention? Like, it's all estimates. It's guessing. Nobody knows. This stuff, how many people saw that TikTok video? This many. How many people were paying attention enough to say, hey, I like this? This many. How many times did they watch it on loop? This many. And just like, it's wild to me the amount of the way people will defend the old stuff that they have no measurement on and poke holes in this stuff that is so airtight from literally this ad to this many sales, we can see the whole chain. And they're like, yeah, I don't know about that. And in your head, you're screaming, what the fuck is there to not know? We have it literally in black and white in front of us, but you're going to defend your billboards and your TV because your wife's best friend is a salesperson and she's been doing a great job for 30 years. Like, okay, like fine, I'm sure she's delightful, but if you could pay your rent with people being delightful, what a world we live in, you know? Like, but you see it every day, and you look. It reminds me kind of like everybody has like that one like friend in the group that's just like dating the super toxic person, but there's no talking to him, and you just look at him and, all right, don't come crying. That's what I feel like these days, man. Like, okay, you want to experiment?
But they're not going to. That's the whole point, though. You just said it. They're not going to change.
Yep.
You're not going to change who they are. That's why I asked you that question. If people are doing better or the same or or worse, I agree with you. You know, I saw a meme. If I'm repeating myself, please call me out. I saw a meme last week that said 2019, you know, me in 2019, man, all I need is some extra time and a couple of weeks at home uninterrupted, and I'll get this place picked up. 2020, me in 2020. Shit, that wasn't it.
Right.
It's like, you know, a leopard doesn't change spots, right? It's just, and I feel bad because we get so many messages about this show and that, again, we've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 times more. If one person watches this show either live and or streaming and or YouTube and or Spotify and or iTunes and or whatever, if they take 90 seconds to listen to something and they pick something up and they've done something about it, then the whole thing is worth it. You know, when I sent you that screenshot yesterday of 32 episodes, you know, neatly lined up on my new Mac, and I said, this is what 3/4 of a year or whatever I said, you know, this is what a year of putting your head down and working looks like with zero expectations. So now, you know, you were texting earlier this week that now you're like, okay, it lit a fire under your ass this week. It's like, it's go time. Like you've been chopping up the show, putting it on LinkedIn, tagging things. You're doing the right things now so that people will see eyeballs on a different platform when they're in a different mindset to be like, oh, I didn't realize Adam and Ben worked together. I didn't realize they had a podcast. And then boom, they listened to all 32 episodes because we're in such a binge-worthy society right now. And guess what? One of those people are going to pick up the phone and be like, hey, can we have a weekly Zoom call with you and Adam? And I'm gonna send you money for that. Cool. Good story.
Well, and like I always tell people, it's the first 60% of every conversation that we have with everybody is this show. And like you can see it when, thanks, Gilly. You can see it when you talk to people, right? And like when we go through it, because we never see one, even if you go back and look at YouTube, you never see one video view go up. Like even like earlier this week, I posted a clip to last week's episode. So yeah, you see a big spike there, but you also see 8 more views on 31. And then 7 more on 30, and then down the line. And then it's not hard to look at that mechanically and then think, okay, every episode that we do, the next clip that gets posted gets exponentially more valuable. Rinse and repeat, right? So like, just selfishly for me and for KBL and for you, great. That's a win right there. Put it in the win column. And then just because it's us, I mean, I don't know if we've really talked about it on the show, but I've talked about it with you offline. We're getting so much more in depth in our strategy in our content game. We've done really, really well on the targeted digital stuff, but as far as coming up with the content that you put on that, how can we help there? So then it's not hard to see how you could take that same thing, like always, make yourself your own best customer and then translate that to other people. How many times in the last 10 months have you and or I said, wow, you should do a podcast on that? And invariably, the person on the other end says, yeah, I've thought about it, or yeah, I know, I've been thinking, da da da. How many do it? Zero. None of them. So could you create this? Like that's the thing. We're like, hey, here's what me and Ben did. Literally, if you have a MacBook, end of equipment that you need. You know, we don't have mics right now. Could we? Should we? Yes. It's literally right here.
You should hold it. You should hold it up during the show just to make it look cool.
I thought about it. I'm not gonna
hold it, Freddie Mercury style.
But and then let people do that. Who knows? October 30th, 2021, we may have as many podcast production clients as we do marketing clients. Great. You know, but you just have to do it. And we can't tell somebody else how to do it until we do it for ourselves.
Right.
And now that we know that we have literally almost a year's worth of content. We started this at the end of January. Mm-hmm. And just seeing how you can leverage that on so many different platforms and in so many different ways, forget about it, dude.
Well, and it answers the question from now until, October 30th, 2026. Literally, it answers the question, what do I post? I mean, I started to go back and relearn how to edit on my Mac, but I mean, there's at least 33 hours of content of you and I sitting in front of our computers talking to one another about stuff that we enjoy, stuff that we're good at, and stuff that we sell by proxy, right? Or stuff that we're going to sell. When you and I started, we didn't know we were going to have discussions like this. We didn't know we were going to have potential long-term, podcast production and whatever that look. We haven't even, you and I literally haven't even had that discussion yet. You've told me what your plans are internally, but externally, we haven't gone out and said, hey, I wonder if people would pay $500 to put a logo on one of our podcasts. I wonder if people would pay $1,000 for me to say, hey, go down to the Braylock Inn this afternoon and get your prime rib Friday afternoon at the Braylock, something like. We don't know if we ever get around to doing that and putting together a pricing sheet and sending it to all of our contacts. I bet you we could make $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month doing this. I bet you we could if we actually sat down and did it, and we probably should at some point. But it's like, we had to do 33 weeks of work. Punchline, comma, punchline. You had to do 33 weeks of work in order to have the audacity to have this discussion.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is that everybody tries to figure it out before they do it. And they try to write a business plan before they ever walk in the door. And listen, everybody's different in how they approach things. And if you're a planner and you have to have shit laid out and documented before you dive into the pool, I got respect for that. It's not how I operate, but everybody's different. And like we always say, there's 8 billion people in the world. There's 8 billion different ways to do this.
Yep.
But you're just always going to learn more by doing it than you are about reading articles or watching YouTube videos or doing anything like that. Because there's just stuff that just in your gut, you're going to feel, ooh. There's certain shows where I've texted you immediately after, be like, that was fucking good. Because you just know. And then if you're smart, you take those things. Okay, what did we do? What did we do this week that made that feel good? That resonated with people? Where people text me as the show's going on and just fire emojis.
Yep.
Okay, and then you look at that and it's okay, well, that, I had some espresso in my coffee, so I was extra hyped. Okay, cool.
I've had a lot of coffee today.
I literally had espresso in my morning one. I'm shaking. I'm so wired today. But stuff like that. And then you get better every single time. So it's just forever the answer. Like KBL is a great example. KBO was born out of doing for other people what we did for the first business we started. We never had to say, here's what we would do. Here's what we're thinking of doing. It was always, here's what we did. Here's how it worked. Here's how that can work here. And that's just, it's always just, the value prop is so much stronger when you're talking from real life experience. Just because like we've talked about it a bunch. There's just a lot of just bullshit snake oil people out there doing what you and I do. And until you get in the trenches and like behind the curtains, we all sound the same. We all say the same things. That first conversation isn't the hard part. Everything that comes after it is. And like, that's where it's tricky. So that's why we don't market ourselves a ton here. I don't have a lot to say marketing wise. That's gonna sound different than everybody else.
Yep.
That's why we show people the work we do. They know who we work with. They know what the results look like. People voluntarily write us testimonials that we put out there. Like anytime I love when a new prospect asks me for testimonials or asks me for people we work with, I have it all saved. And people are like, give them my cell phone number, give them my email, whatever they need. And there's like, when you think about it, if you're thinking about working with an agency, and instead of me sending you a 27-page deck explaining the nitty-gritty of what, basically telling you why it's good to market in 2000, instead of that, if you get a one-pager with 7 testimonials from business owners in your hometown with their personal cell phone and email that said, yes, call me with any questions, how is that going to hit you? I'm in.
I'm in. Done. All right, last call for questions. This has been great. We should put you on Espresso more often, man. I love it.
I'm thinking about it, to be honest with you.
I love it. I'm going to buy you an espresso. Jamie Benji, Josh Drennan checking in. Good to see you, man. The aforementioned Dan, easy for me to say, Taglimonte.
Yo,
boy,
shout out to Dan for riding out the whole show. Let's go.
I know, right? Brian Donaghy, always a big fan. He listens to the pod. He works at the airport. He always listens to either before or after watching walking the dog, is what he tells me. Buddy Joe, good friend Buddy Joe.
Joey Rogan.
Ben Fesco, Skinny Atlas, checking in, or formerly of Skinny Atlas. Greg Stoll. Eric Crone sending love. Much love to our boy Eric Crone. And Eric wait. Oh, Eric, cannot wait to see you soon. It's almost time, my friend. He's the hill manager at Toggenburg. Let's go. I cannot wait for that here shortly. Hopefully, if we're able to ski. I think my final thought, this is my favorite weekend of the year, and for a number of reasons. Number one, we're huge Halloween fans. We're having a big I shouldn't say big, excuse me. The government's listening. We're
having a very appropriately, responsibly sized gathering. That's what you're doing.
It's going to be outside. I'm going to pick up wood in about 2 hours. It's going to be outside. We're going to have a big bonfire. That's what I meant to say. Big bonfire, not party. We're having a big bonfire. Paige is having some friends over. We're doing pizza from our local shop. But I think it's a trend. Halloween's a transition, and I think the bottom line for this show for me is we wanted to be practitioners of what we preach, right? You and I finally wanted to sit down and say we wanted to put our own awareness of things that we're either consuming and or creating to finally put our money where our mouth was, to create a pillar piece of content every week. So we will have a fire hose of content whenever we need it, or whether you're prospecting. You said it yourself. You actually use this as a tool now to send it to prospects. You're like, you want to know what I'm all about? Here, watch episode 23. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So for me, we're going into a transition. I'm not getting political. We're probably going to be home here shortly, again, soon. Yep. It's going to be probably a tough winter. If you have a computer, if you have a MacBook, if you have a $200 Chromebook, that has a webcam on it, you can book a weekly call with one of your boys, one of your girls that's into the same thing you are, and you can create a show. Mark it down today, October 30th, 2020. So when we come out of this, whenever, again, not getting political, if we come out of this, let's say Memorial Day, 2021, okay? There's 7 months right there. 7 times 4 is 28. You can have 28 hours of content about baseball cards, video games, marketing, crocheting, painting, monster trucks, UFC fighting, football. I don't care what you're into. You can run the exact same play that Adam and I have just run and be that thought leader in the space so that you too can have the audacity to go out and ask people to pay you money to be the UFC expert and either sell on your podcast or monetize other ways. We'll get into that at some point. You know, you and I, we still have to have that whiteboard session. I understand that. But you now have 7 months. Give yourself the permission to do it. Flip on a camera, record your Zoom, put it on Facebook, and off you go. Okay, yeah. Off my soapbox.
No, I mean, I think that's the big thing is that, you know, on 2 fronts, you know, one, you know, figure out what you want to happen and then put content out around it. You and I talk about the stuff we talk about because it's the shit that we do every day and what we get paid for and how to make a living. So it's all a part of a bigger plan. We don't just, you know, sit here and talk for an hour just for fun. There's a bigger intent and there's a bigger plan behind it. So that's step 1. And then it's like step 2, you're right. Like, and we've talked about it a bunch, whether it is government enforced or whether it is just human behavior, when it's already starting, like it snowed today. As people start getting the sniffles and start coughing, like things are going to stay quiet. We're going to have a quiet winter, one way or the other. We just are. The key thing being, like you said, you know, March and April hit everybody like a Mike Tyson right hook. We don't have that excuse this year. You know what I mean? We pretty much know. I mean, we were shut down for months. We know what that looks like and what it feels like, right? So we have no excuse to not be prepared for it, whatever that looks like. If it's doing a Zoom podcast, if it's having an e-commerce platform of what you're doing, all of the above. Virtual classes and lessons versus in person, all of it. We have no excuse to not be ready and we can't blame a pandemic this winter heading into next week. We can't blame it. It's here. It's been here. You know what I mean? So that's just like how I'm looking at it for a lot of our people where it's already starting. And I'm like, we're ready for this. We're prepared. We have a plan A, B, and C based on what happens and to what intensity. So it's just one of those things. And like all the shit you wish that you would have done March, April, May, do that now. You know what I mean? For a lot of us are still working from home. A lot of us have that flexibility. So it's just one of those things that just action gets rewarded. It just does. And the sooner you start doing, like, you know, if you do it next month, you'll wish you did it today. So just fucking do it today. Like,
yep. And my punchline is this: is that everybody downloaded the Amazon app, everybody downloaded Instacart, everybody started texting their favorite brands, everybody started doing that last year as a trial because they had to do it. So everybody's buying habits, March, April, May, June, all changed. Some of those people went back to retail. Some of those people went back to this. Guess what's going to happen? November, December, January, February, March. All those people are going back to this, and they're going to come back to this permanently. Period. End of story. People's buying habits changed a little bit back then. People's buying habits are going to change permanently this winter. So you have 6, 7, 8 months to focus on your business, so that it is consumed properly through this, because if not, you will be left behind. But if you do, you're going to be ahead of the curve. I always want to finish on a positive note, right? You want to gain that attention. Let's post-market. Attention and attention. If you want more attention, spend those 20% of the time to do those things to map your business so that when people are home and they need to text you, they absolutely can text you. So that is it. Episode 33. Thank you. Huge turnout on the live. Thank you today for everybody that is watching live. If you're listening to this on YouTube, walking the dog, we appreciate it. Spotify and or iTunes, we appreciate it. You know how to get a hold of us. Have a great holiday weekend. Happy Halloween. Peace.
See you.